The year was 2147. Earth had seen better days. Decades of environmental disasters and endless wars over dwindling resources had left humanity battered but not broken. Cities were crumbling, forests were dying, and the oceans churned with plastic instead of life. Yet, people clung to hope, a fragile, flickering flame that refused to go out. That hope, however, would soon be tested like never before. It started as a shadow across the sky. At first, no one paid much attention. People thought it was another storm or maybe a glitch in satellite imagery. But when the shadow grew darker and wider, stretching from horizon to horizon, panic spread like wildfire. By the time scientists confirmed what was happening, it was too late. A fleet of alien ships, massive, sleek, and terrifyingly silent, had descended upon Earth. The largest ship loomed above the atmosphere like a second moon, its metallic surface reflecting sunlight in sharp, blinding flashes. Smaller vessels swarmed around it like insects, their shapes angular and predatory. Humanity froze in awe and terror. News channels scrambled to broadcast updates, but all anyone could do was stare at the sky, wondering if this was the end. Then came the message. It wasn't spoken in words, at least not human ones. It pulsed through every electronic device on the planet, a deep, resonant hum that vibrated in people's chests. When the translation appeared on screens worldwide, it was chillingly clear. Surrender your world. Resistance will result in annihilation. No explanation, no negotiation, just an ultimatum. Captain Lirin stood on the bridge of the flagship, her wings folded tightly against her back, a sign of restraint among her kind, the Vortheri. She was tall and regal, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver under the dim red lights of the command center. Her piercing eyes scanned the holographic display showing Earth below. Something about this planet unsettled her, though she couldn't say why. "Commander," said Kale, her second in command, stepping closer. His voice was calm but edged with curiosity. "Why hesitate? This world is like the others, weak, divided, easy to conquer." Lirin didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied the readings coming from Earth's atmosphere. Strange energy signatures interfered with their sensors, causing minor malfunctions across the fleet. More troubling was the unease spreading among her crew. Reports trickled in of soldiers experiencing unusual symptoms: restlessness, vivid dreams, even bouts of emotion. Such things were rare among the Vortheri, who prided themselves on logic and discipline. "This planet is different," Lirin finally said, her tone measured but firm. "I can feel it." Kale frowned, his skepticism plain. "Feelings have no place in conquest, Commander. We must act swiftly before they organize a defense." Lirin turned to him, her gaze sharp. "And yet we falter. Why does this world disrupt our systems? Why do my warriors dream of places they've never been?" Before Kale could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. A small human spacecraft had breached their perimeter, firing projectiles that exploded harmlessly against their shields. It was a futile gesture, but it sparked something in Lirin, a memory, faint and distant, of open skies and boundless freedom. She shook it off, dismissing it as stress. "Prepare the invasion force," she ordered, though her voice lacked its usual certainty. "But proceed with caution. There is more to this world than meets the eye." As the Vortheri fleet descended toward Earth, neither side realized how deeply intertwined their fates truly were. For humanity, survival depended on courage and ingenuity. For the Vortheri, it would mean confronting truths long buried and fears they never knew they had. The Vortheri invasion began with a deafening roar. Their smaller ships descended like hawks, targeting major cities and military bases across the globe. Explosions lit up the night sky as buildings crumbled and fires raged unchecked. Humanity's defenses were overwhelmed within hours. But amidst the chaos, one name stood out: Dr. Elena Vega. Elena was not a soldier. She was an astrophysicist who had spent most of her life studying distant stars and forgotten technologies. Yet when the aliens arrived, she became humanity's reluctant strategist. Her plan was risky, almost insane, but it was all they had left. Decades earlier, Earth had launched thousands of satellites into orbit for communication and weather monitoring. Many of these satellites were now defunct, floating silently in space like ancient relics. Alina proposed repurposing them into weapons. By hacking into their systems, she believed they could generate powerful electromagnetic pulses, EMPs, capable of disabling the alien ships. "Are you sure this will work?" General Hayes asked, his voice tense as he leaned over the makeshift war room table. The dim light from a flickering lamp cast shadows on his weary face. "No," Alina admitted, pushing her glasses up the bridge of her nose. "But it's our only chance." While Alina worked tirelessly with a team of engineers, Malik Javed sat alone in a corner of the bunker, staring at his hands. He was a soldier, or at least he used to be. Once proud and fearless, Malik now carried the weight of failure. During a previous battle against the invaders, he had made a critical mistake that cost dozens of lives. Since then, he avoided combat, burying himself in menial tasks just to stay busy. But tonight, there was no escape. General Hayes approached him, his expression grim. "Malik, we need every able body for this fight. You're coming with us." Malik hesitated, guilt gnawing at him. "Sir, I'm not." "You are," Hayes interrupted firmly. "We don't have time for doubts. Suit up." Reluctantly, Malik obeyed. Hours later, he found himself standing on the outskirts of New Mumbai, watching as the first wave of EMP-equipped drones soared into the sky. The plan was simple yet dangerous. Lure the Vortheri ships close enough to trigger the EMPs without getting obliterated in the process. The attack began with a desperate gamble. Human fighters darted between towering skyscrapers, firing missiles to draw the attention of the alien vessels. The Vortheri responded swiftly, their advanced weapons tearing through the air with terrifying precision. Buildings collapsed, streets erupted in flames, and the ground shook beneath Malik's feet. Then the signal came. Alina's voice crackled over the radio. "Activate the EMP grid, now." With a blinding flash, the satellites unleashed their payload. Waves of electromagnetic energy surged through the air, hitting the Vortheri fleet like a tidal wave. For a brief moment, everything went silent. The alien ships faltered, their sleek surfaces flickering as if struggling to reboot. Cheers erupted among the human forces, but the victory was short-lived. One by one, the Vortheri ships regained control. Their shields reactivated, stronger than before, and they retaliated with devastating force. The EMPs had bought humanity some time, but it wasn't enough. From her command center, Alina clenched her fists in frustration. Something about the Vortheri technology felt familiar. It didn't behave like any alien system she'd studied. Why did it adapt so quickly? And why did its patterns remind her of old Earth-based designs? Meanwhile, Captain Lirin observed the skirmish from above. Her sharp eyes narrowed as she analyzed the human tactics. There was something oddly calculated about their movements, almost as if they understood Vortheri weaknesses. "They've learned," Kale said beside her, his tone cold. "They won't surprise us again." Lirin nodded slowly, though unease lingered in her chest. "Perhaps. But tell me, Cal, why does it feel like they know us better than we know ourselves?" Neither of them had an answer. But deep down, both knew this war was far from ordinary. The battle over New Mumbai left both sides battered but far from finished. For humanity, it was a fleeting victory, a momentary triumph that proved they could fight back, even against an enemy as advanced as the Vortheri. But for Captain Lirin, it stirred something deeper, something she couldn't quite explain. That night, as the Vortheri fleet regrouped in orbit, Lirin retreated to her quarters. The room was small and Spartan, lit only by the soft glow of holographic displays showing Earth below. She stared at the blue-green planet, her mind heavy with questions. Why did this world affect her so profoundly? Why did her crew seem restless, almost human. As exhaustion took hold, sleep claimed her. And then the dreams began. Lirin found herself standing in a lush forest, sunlight filtering through towering trees. Birds chirped overhead, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. It was peaceful, a stark contrast to the sterile environment of her ship. But what startled her most was the feeling inside her chest, a warmth she hadn't felt in centuries. Joy, wonder, belonging. She walked forward, drawn by an unseen force. Ahead, she saw figures moving among the trees, humanoid shapes with wings like hers. They laughed and spoke in a language she didn't recognize but somehow understood. One figure turned to face her, and Lirin gasped. It was her own reflection, but younger, freer, unburdened by the weight of conquest. "Who are you?" she whispered, reaching out. Before the figure could respond, the dream shattered. Lirin woke with a start, her heart racing. Her hands trembled as she touched her face, trying to shake off the vivid memory. Or was it a vision? On Earth, Dr. Elena Vega worked tirelessly in her lab, poring over data collected during the battle. Something about the Vortheri ship's energy signatures intrigued her. They were unlike anything she'd seen before. Complex, layered, almost organic. Then, buried deep within the readings, she found it. Genetic markers. Not just any markers, but ones that matched ancient human DNA samples stored in global archives. "This can't be right," Elena muttered, rubbing her temples. She ran the analysis again, but the results remained the same. "There's a connection between us and them." She called General Hayes into the lab, explaining her findings. What if the Vortheri aren't entirely alien? What if they evolved from humans, or shared ancestors with us? Hayes frowned, skeptical but intrigued. "If that's true, it changes everything. Do you think Earth might have been their home once?" "I don't know yet," Elena admitted. "But if we can prove it, maybe we can use it against them. Maybe we can make them see reason." Meanwhile, Malik struggled with his role in the resistance. After the battle, he had returned to the bunker, haunted by the faces of fallen comrades. He sat alone in a dimly lit corner, staring at a cracked photo of his family. His younger sister smiled up at him, frozen in time. Guilt weighed heavily on his shoulders. "You okay?" a voice asked softly. Malik looked up to see Elena standing there, concern etched on her face. "I'm fine," he lied, avoiding her gaze. "You're not," she said firmly, sitting beside him. "But you're still here. That means something." Her words lingered in his mind long after she left. Was she right? Did his presence still matter, even after all his failures? Back aboard the Vorthari flagship, tension simmered. Kale noticed Lirin's growing distraction and confronted her privately. "You've been distant," he said, his tone sharp. "Is something wrong?" Lirin hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "I've been having visions of Earth, of people who look like us." Cal's eyes narrowed. "Visions? Commander, we cannot afford weakness. If you're compromised." "I'm not compromised," Lirin snapped, cutting him off. "But I won't ignore what I've seen. There's more to this planet than conquest. Find out what it is." Kale nodded curtly, though doubt clouded his expression. As he turned to leave, Lirin stared out the viewport once more, her thoughts swirling. Earth held secrets, not just for humanity, but for the Vortheri as well. Secrets that might change the course of the war, and perhaps the fate of both species. The jungle was alive with sound. Birds chirped, insects buzzed, and the air was thick with humidity. Malik trudged through the dense Amazon rainforest, his boots sinking into the mud with every step. He wasn't alone. 2 other resistance fighters accompanied him, their faces streaked with dirt and sweat. They had been fleeing from a Vortheri patrol that had chased them deep into the wilderness. Now, they were lost. "This way," Malik whispered, motioning for the others to follow. His instincts told him to keep moving, but exhaustion slowed his pace. Just as he began to think they'd have to stop and risk being found, something caught his eye, a glimmer of light piercing through the thick canopy. Curious, Malik pushed forward, brushing aside vines and branches until he reached the source. What he saw took his breath away. Before him stood the ruins of an ancient city, half buried by time and nature. Stone structures rose like jagged teeth from the forest floor, covered in moss and creepers. Intricate carvings adorned the walls, scenes of winged beings standing alongside humans, working together under starry skies. At the center of the site lay a pedestal, and atop it rested a glowing artifact. It pulsed faintly, emitting a soft hum that resonated in Malik's chest. "What is this place?" one of the fighters asked, his voice trembling with awe. "I don't know," Malik replied, stepping closer to the artifact. "But I think we just found something important." Against his better judgment, Malik reached out and touched the object. The moment his fingers brushed its surface, a surge of energy coursed through him. Images flooded his mind, visions of a distant past. He saw the Vortheri not as conquerors, but as explorers. They had once lived on Earth alongside humans, sharing knowledge and building civilizations. But then came a great catastrophe, a cosmic event that forced the Vortheri to leave their home. Over time, survival turned to desperation, and desperation bred violence. When the vision ended, Malik staggered back, gasping for air. His companions rushed to his side, concern etched on their faces. "Are you okay?" one of them asked. Malik nodded slowly, still trying to process what he had seen. "We need to take this artifact back to Alina. She needs to see this." Meanwhile, aboard the Vorthari flagship, Captain Lirin continued to wrestle with her growing unease. The dreams persisted, each one more vivid than the last. In them, she walked through forests and fields, feeling emotions she thought long dead: joy, curiosity, even love. These feelings clashed violently with the rigid discipline drilled into her since birth. Kale noticed her distraction and confronted her again. "You're losing focus, Commander," he said sharply. "Your hesitation endangers us all." "I'm not hesitating," Lirin shot back, her voice tinged with frustration. "I'm trying to understand why Earth affects us so deeply. Why do my warriors dream of places they've never been? Why do our systems falter here when they function perfectly elsewhere?" Kale crossed his arms, unconvinced. "Dreams are irrelevant. This mission is about conquest, not exploration. If you can't lead, perhaps someone else should." Lirin's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, tension crackled between them. Then she softened, shaking her head. "You don't understand, Kale. Something ties us to this planet. Until I uncover what it is, we proceed cautiously." Unbeknownst to either of them, Malik and his team were making their way back to the resistance base, the artifact carefully wrapped in cloth. Along the route, they encountered scattered groups of Vortheri soldiers patrolling the area. Each encounter was tense, forcing Malik to rely on stealth and quick thinking to avoid detection. When they finally reached the bunker, Alina was waiting. Her eyes widened at the sight of the artifact. "Where did you find this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "In the jungle," Malik replied. "There's a whole city buried there. And this thing, it showed me things, Alina, about the Vorthari, about us." Alina's hands trembled as she unwrapped the artifact. Its glow intensified, and she felt a strange warmth emanating from it. Whatever it was, it held answers, not just for humanity, but for the Vorthari as well. "This changes everything," Alina murmured, her mind racing. "If we can decode this, we might be able to reach them, make them remember who they used to be." For the first time in weeks, hope flickered brighter than fear. But neither side knew how far that hope would take them, or what sacrifices it might demand. The artifact's presence in the resistance bunker created ripples of change, not just among humans, but within the Vorthari fleet as well. Its energy seemed to stretch across the void, affecting both species in ways no one could fully understand. Captain Lirin noticed it first among her crew. Soldiers who had once been cold and calculating began showing signs of emotion, Some spoke of strange dreams, much like hers, where they wandered through forests or stood beneath Earth's starry skies. Others exhibited moments of hesitation during combat, their usual ruthlessness replaced by uncertainty. Even Kale, her ever-loyal second-in-command, started questioning orders, though he masked it with thinly veiled frustration. "What is happening to us?" Kale demanded one evening on the flagship's observation deck. The view of Earth loomed large outside the massive windows, its blue-green surface shimmering faintly. Liren didn't answer immediately. She leaned against the railing, her wings folded tightly against her back, a posture of restraint she rarely adopted. Her mind raced with possibilities. Was it the planet itself, or was there something more at play? "Earth is awakening something in us," she finally said, her voice soft but firm. "Something buried deep within our past." Kale scoffed, though his tone lacked conviction. "Buried? You mean forgotten. We abandoned such weaknesses long ago. Emotion clouds judgment. It makes us vulnerable." And yet, Liren countered, turning to face him, it also drives connection, creativity, purpose. What if conquering isn't our only path forward? Kale stiffened, his expression darkening. "You sound like them, the humans. They cling to hope when all evidence points to failure." "Do you wish to join them, Commander? To surrender?" "I wish to understand," Liren replied sharply. "Understanding leads to strength, not weakness. Until I know why this planet affects us, we proceed cautiously." Her words did little to soothe Kale's growing unease. He left the observation deck, muttering under his breath about discipline and duty. But as he walked away, doubt gnawed at him. Why did Liren's questions linger in his mind? Why did the image of Earth's glowing horizon feel so familiar? Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Vega worked tirelessly to decode the artifact's secrets. With Malik's help, she set up a secure lab in the bunker, surrounding the object with sensors and scanners. The artifact pulsed steadily, its glow shifting colors as if responding to their efforts. "It's alive," Elena murmured one night, staring at the readings on her tablet. "Not in the biological sense, but sentient. It reacts to thoughts, emotions, memories." Malik, sitting nearby, frowned. "So, what does that mean for us? Can we use it against them?" Elena hesitated, her brow furrowed. "Maybe, but I think it's more than a weapon. This thing holds knowledge about the Vorthuri, about us, about Earth itself. If we can unlock it, we might be able to reach them, make them see that conquest isn't their destiny." As they spoke, the artifact emitted a low hum, resonating through the room. Images flickered in the air above it, scenes of ancient civilizations, humans and Vorthuri working side by side. Then came darker visions, a world torn apart by disaster, the Vorthuri fleeing into the stars, leaving behind fragments of their identity. "This is their origin story," Elena whispered, awestruck. "Earth is their home, and they've forgotten." Malik leaned forward, his eyes wide. "If we remind them, maybe they'll stop fighting. Maybe they'll remember who they used to be." But hope was fragile, and time was running out. Reports poured in from across the globe. Vorthuri attacks were intensifying, targeting civilian populations with brutal efficiency. Cities burned, and despair spread like wildfire. General Hayes entered the lab, his face grim. "We need results, Doctor. People are dying out there. If this thing can turn the tide, now's the time to use it." Elena nodded, determination hardening her features. "We'll try something tonight. A test broadcast using the artifact's energy. If we're right, it might reach the Vorthuri fleet and wake them up." As preparations began, tension filled the air. Could the artifact bridge the gap between two species, or would it only deepen the divide? For humanity, it was a gamble worth taking. For the Vorthuri, it might force them to confront truths they'd spent centuries burying. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, Captain Liren gazed at Earth once more, feeling the pull of a forgotten past growing stronger with each passing moment. The night was eerily quiet in the resistance bunker. Dr. Elena Vega stood at the center of the lab, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the final settings on the artifact's interface. Around her, Malik and a small team of engineers worked frantically to prepare for what they hoped would be humanity's most daring move yet, a broadcast using the artifact's energy to reach the Vorthuri fleet. "This is insane," Malik muttered under his breath, glancing nervously at the glowing object. "What if it doesn't work? What if it makes them angrier?" "It has to work," Elena replied firmly, though her voice betrayed a hint of fear. "We've seen what this thing can do. It's not just a weapon, it's a bridge. If we can amplify its signal, maybe we can make them feel again. Maybe we can remind them who they really are." Malik nodded but said nothing. He didn't share her optimism, only a gnawing sense of dread. Still, he helped set up the equipment, knowing there were no other options left. Outside, the world burned. Vorthuri ships descended over major cities, unleashing waves of destruction. Civilians fled in terror, their cries echoing through streets reduced to rubble. The invaders showed no mercy, their attacks growing more brutal with each passing hour. Humanity's time was running out. Finally, everything was ready. Elena took a deep breath and turned to Malik. "Activate the artifact." With a nod, Malik pressed the button. The artifact flared to life, its glow intensifying until it filled the entire room. A low hum reverberated through the walls, growing louder and deeper with every second. Then, the signal surged outward, invisible but powerful, reaching into the skies above Earth and beyond. On board the Vorthuri flagship, Captain Lirin felt it immediately. A wave of emotion crashed over her, overwhelming and uncontrollable. She staggered back, clutching the railing as memories flooded her mind. Images of laughter, love, and connection. Her wings twitched involuntarily, and tears streamed down her face. "What is this?" Kale shouted, gripping his console as the ship shuddered violently. The crew around him reacted similarly, some collapsing to their knees, while others stared blankly, overwhelmed by feelings they had long suppressed. Lirin struggled to stay upright, her heart pounding. She realized what was happening. The humans had tapped into something ancient, something buried within the very core of her people. The artifact wasn't just awakening emotions, it was restoring fragments of their forgotten identity. "Shut it down," Kale barked, his voice laced with panic. "Whatever this is, it's weakening us." "No," Lirin said softly, her tone firm despite the chaos around her. "It's showing us the truth." She stepped toward the viewport, staring down at Earth. For the first time, she saw it not as a target for conquest, but as a home, a place where her ancestors had once thrived alongside humans. Guilt and sorrow washed over her, followed by an unshakable resolve. "We must retreat," she declared, turning to address her crew. "This planet is not ours to take. It never was." Kale spun to face her, his expression livid. "You would abandon our mission. After everything we've sacrificed." "I would save my people," Lirin shot back, her voice rising. "Look around you, Kale. Look at what we've become. Is this truly who we want to be?" Her words struck a chord. Several crew members lowered their weapons, their faces reflecting confusion and shame. Others hesitated, torn between loyalty to their commander and the weight of newfound emotions. Seizing the moment, Lirin gave the order. "Withdraw from Earth's atmosphere. Now." As the fleet began pulling back, Kale stormed off the bridge, seething with anger. He couldn't accept defeat, not like this. But Lirin knew the battle wasn't over. It had only shifted, from one of weapons to one of hearts and minds. Back on Earth, Elena watched as the skies cleared, the Vorthuri ships retreating into the distance. Relief washed over her, but she knew better than to celebrate. The artifact had opened a door, but whether the Vorthuri would walk through it remained uncertain. For now, though, humanity had survived another day, and that was enough. Kel's rage burned like a star about to explode. He paced the dimly lit corridors of the flagship, his fists clenched so tightly that his sharp nails dug into his palms. Lirin's decision to retreat had been an act of betrayal in his eyes, a direct challenge to everything the Vortheri stood for. Discipline, strength, conquest. To him, emotions were weaknesses, and weakness was unforgivable. He wasn't alone in his anger. Dozens of soldiers shared his fury, their faces etched with confusion and resentment as they gathered in secret meetings aboard the ship. These warriors, hardened by centuries of battles and indoctrination, couldn't reconcile the feelings stirred by Earth's artifact with their duty to the fleet. They saw Lirin's actions as a threat to their very existence. "We can't let her destroy us," Kale declared during one such meeting, his voice low but fierce. "She's abandoning our mission, our purpose. For what? Dreams? Memories? This is madness." The group nodded in agreement, their loyalty to Kale growing stronger with each passing moment. Among them was Terran, a young lieutenant whose sharp mind and tactical brilliance made her invaluable. Unlike the others, however, she hesitated. "Commander Lirin has always led us wisely," Terran said cautiously. "If she believes Earth holds answers, perhaps we should listen." "She's compromised," Kale snapped, slamming his fist against the wall. "Emotions cloud judgment. If we follow her, we'll lose everything. The fleet, our people, our future." Terran fell silent, unsure how to respond. Deep down, she felt torn. Part of her admired Kale's unwavering dedication to their cause, but another part couldn't ignore the truth. Something about Earth did feel familiar. The dreams, the emotions, it wasn't just Lirin who experienced them. Everyone on the ship carried fragments of forgotten memories, whether they admitted it or not. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Malik and Alina worked to solidify their fragile victory. The artifact remained at the center of their efforts, its glow steady but subdued after the massive energy surge. Alina believed they could use it again, not as a weapon, but as a tool to communicate directly with the Vorthari. "We need to reach out to them," Alina explained to General Hayes, pacing the cramped war room. "They're confused, scared even. If we show them compassion instead of hostility, maybe we can convince more of them to join us." Hayes frowned, skeptical as always. "And if they attack again?" "They won't. Not yet," Alina replied firmly. "Lirin's withdrawal proves they're divided. We have a chance to exploit that division before Kale regains control." Malik listened quietly, his thoughts drifting to the ruins in the Amazon. The murals he'd seen there depicted humans and Vortheri living together in harmony. Could that unity be restored? Or were they chasing an impossible dream? Alina turned to him, sensing his doubt. "We don't have time to second-guess ourselves, Malik. Every moment we wait gives Kel more power." Reluctantly, Malik nodded. Together, they devised a plan. Infiltrate the Vorthari flagship, locate Lirin, and use the artifact to broadcast another message, one focused on peace rather than fear. But getting close enough to execute the plan would require help from within the fleet itself. That help came unexpectedly. Sira, a young Vorthari pilot disillusioned by the violence of conquest, secretly contacted the resistance through encrypted channels. Her voice trembled as she spoke, betraying both fear and determination. "I believe Commander Lirin is right," Sira admitted. "Our people are lost. If you can remind them of who they used to be, I'll do whatever it takes to help." With Sira's assistance, the team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. They knew the risks. Capture meant certain death, but failure meant losing any hope of ending the war peacefully. As preparations continued, tensions aboard the Vorthari flagship reached a boiling point. Kale rallied his supporters, plotting to overthrow Lirin and reclaim command. His coup was swift and brutal, leaving loyalists scattered and disorganized. When he stormed onto the bridge, flanked by armed guards, Lirin stood calmly, her wings spread wide in defiance. "You've betrayed your people," Kale snarled, leveling the weapon at her. "No," Lurin replied, her voice steady despite the danger. I'm trying to save them. From you. In that moment, the fate of both species hung precariously in the balance. Would rebellion tear the Vorthari apart? Or could unity still rise from the ashes of conflict? The Vorthari flagship was a fortress of steel and shadow, its corridors dimly lit by pulsing red lights that cast eerie glows on the walls. Malik, Alina, and their small team moved cautiously through the labyrinthine ship, guided only by Sira's whispered directions over their earpieces. Every step felt like walking into the jaws of a predator. Each sound, each movement could mean discovery and death. This way, Sarah's voice crackled softly in their ears. There's a security checkpoint ahead. I've disabled the cameras, but you'll need to move fast. Malik nodded, signaling for the group to follow him. His heart pounded as they slipped past rows of dormant drones and locked doors, their footsteps muffled by the thick metal floors. The artifact rested securely in a containment unit slung across Alina's back, its faint hum vibrating against her spine. She clutched it tightly, knowing its power was both their greatest weapon and their most vulnerable weakness. As they approached the bridge, tension mounted. Voices echoed from behind closed doors. Sharp, angry exchanges between Kale and his followers. Lurin's calm tones occasionally broke through, steady and resolute even in captivity. They're arguing about her, Alina whispered, adjusting the translator device strapped to her wrist. Kale wants to execute her, but not everyone agrees. Malik tightened his grip on his weapon, his jaw clenched. We don't have time to wait. Let's go. Inside the bridge, chaos reigned. Lurin stood at the center, surrounded by armed guards loyal to Kale. Her wings were slightly spread, a silent show of defiance despite the restraints binding her wrists. Kale paced before her, his face twisted with fury. You're a traitor. Kale spat, pointing an accusing finger at her. You abandoned our mission, our people. For what? A planet full of savages. They are not savages, Lurin replied evenly, meeting his gaze without flinching. They are survivors. And so are we. If you cannot see that, then you are no better than the forces that drove us from this world centuries ago. Her words sparked murmurs among the crew. Some shifted uncomfortably, their loyalty wavering under the weight of doubt. Others scowled, gripping their weapons tighter. Enough, Kale roared, silencing the room. I will not let your weakness destroy us. You leave me no choice. Before he could give the order to execute Lurin, the door burst open. Malik and Alina entered, weapons drawn, followed closely by Sira. The sudden intrusion stunned everyone, including Kale. How dare you trespass here? Kale bellowed, raising his weapon. We're here for her, Malik said firmly, stepping forward. And for anyone who still remembers who they really are. Alina activated the artifact, its glow intensifying until it filled the room. Waves of emotion radiated outward, forcing the Vorthari soldiers to confront feelings they'd buried deep inside. Some dropped their weapons, overwhelmed by guilt and sorrow. Others hesitated, torn between duty and truth. Kale staggered backward, shielding his face as if trying to block out the light. Turn it off, he screamed, his voice cracking. You're destroying us. No, Lurin said softly, breaking free from her captors as they faltered under the artifact's influence. You're destroying yourselves. This is who we are, Kale. Not conquerors, but explorers, dreamers, survivors. For a moment, silence fell over the bridge. Then, slowly, one soldier lowered his weapon. Another followed suit. Terran stepped forward, her expression conflicted but resolute. She's right, Terran said, addressing Kale. This isn't who we want to be anymore. Kale looked around, betrayal etched into every line of his face. He realized he was alone, or nearly so. With a snarl, he lunged toward Lurin, determined to end this rebellion himself. But Malik was faster. Stepping between them, he raised his weapon and fired, not to kill, but to incapacitate. Kale collapsed, unconscious but alive. Breathing heavily, Malik turned to Lirin. "It's over." Lirin shook her head, her eyes filled with resolve. "No, it's just beginning." The artifact pulsed once more, its energy spreading throughout the ship and beyond. For the first time in centuries, the Vorthari remembered. But remembering came with a price, choosing between the past they had lost and the future they could build. The artifact's energy surged through the Vorthari flagship like a wave, washing over every crew member aboard. Memories long buried bubbled to the surface. Visions of ancient forests, starry skies, and shared laughter with humans who had once been their equals. For many, it was overwhelming. Some fell to their knees, sobbing as guilt and regret consumed them. Others stood frozen, staring into the distance as fragments of their forgotten identity pieced themselves together. Lirin watched silently, her wings folded tightly against her back. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders, but also a glimmer of hope. Her people were waking up, not just to the truth of their origins, but to the possibility of redemption. Kale lay unconscious at her feet, his body still twitching from the shock of Malik's stun blast. Lirin knelt beside him, her expression softening as she studied his face. Once her most trusted ally, now a symbol of everything her people had tried to leave behind. "Take him to the infirmary," she ordered, rising to her full height. "He needs time to heal, not just physically, but emotionally." Taryn hesitated before nodding, motioning for 2 guards to carry Cal away. Watching him go, Lirin couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. He had acted out of fear, a fear so deeply ingrained in their society that it had shaped generations of violence. But fear could be conquered, and Lirin vowed to lead her people towards something better. In the chaos that followed, Alina and Malik worked alongside Sira and other sympathetic Vorthari to stabilize the ship. The artifact continued to emit its calming energy, but controlling its power required careful precision. If left unchecked, it could overwhelm even those willing to change. "We need to shut it down soon," Alina warned, her fingers flying across the control panel they'd rigged around the artifact. "Its effects are spreading too far. We don't know how the rest of the fleet will react." Malik nodded, glancing at the monitors displaying data from nearby ships. On several vessels, similar scenes of unrest played out. Soldiers questioning orders, captains wavering between loyalty to tradition and curiosity about Earth's message. "It's working," Malik said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "They're listening." But not everyone welcomed the shift. Reports came in of pockets of resistance within the fleet, groups loyal to Kale's ideology refusing to surrender. These holdouts posed a significant threat. They were armed, dangerous, and unwilling to let go of the old ways. "We can't force them to change," Lirin said firmly when informed of the situation. "But we can offer them a choice. Those who wish to remain bound by conquest may leave this system. They'll find no welcome here anymore." Her words sent ripples throughout the fleet. Within hours, dozens of ships broke formation and departed, disappearing into the void. It was a painful loss, but necessary. Only those ready to embrace change would stay and rebuild. Back on Earth, news of the ceasefire spread quickly. Civilians emerged from hiding, their faces etched with disbelief and cautious optimism. General Hayes contacted Alina via encrypted transmission, his voice gruff but tinged with relief. "You've done the impossible, Doctor," he said. "What happens now?" Alina exchanged a glance with Malik, then replied, "Now we build bridges. Both sides have suffered enough. It's time to start healing." As night fell over the planet, Lirin stood on the flagship's observation deck, gazing down at Earth. Its blue-green glow filled her with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in centuries. Beside her, Sira joined silently, her young face reflecting awe and determination. "What do you see when you look at it?" Sira asked softly. "A beginning," Lirin answered, her voice steady. "Not just for my people, but for all of us." Far below, Malik and Alina stood side by side, watching as Vorthari ships descended peacefully for the first time. Humanity and the Vorthari weren't enemies anymore. They were survivors, bound by a shared past and an uncertain future. And though challenges lay ahead, one thing was clear. Together, they might just find a way forward. The weeks that followed were a fragile dance between hope and healing. The Vorthari who chose to stay behind began the long process of reconnecting with Earth and themselves. Under Lyran's guidance, they established temporary outposts near human settlements, working alongside their former enemies in an uneasy but determined partnership. For many, it was the first time they had seen Earth up close, not as conquerors, but as equals. Lyran herself had taken on a new role, ambassador. She spent her days meeting with human leaders, sharing stories of the Vorthari's forgotten past and listening to humanity's struggles. Her presence was both humbling and inspiring, proof that even those who once sought destruction could seek redemption. "We share this planet," she said during one such meeting, addressing a council of global representatives. "Not as masters or slaves, but as kin. Our histories are intertwined. To deny that is to deny ourselves." Her words resonated deeply, sparking conversations about coexistence and mutual understanding. Slowly, trust began to grow. It wasn't easy. Centuries of fear and violence couldn't be erased overnight. But progress was visible in small acts of kindness. A Vorthari engineer helping repair a damaged water filtration system. A human farmer teaching winged visitors how to cultivate crops. Children laughing together under the same sun. Malik found himself drawn into this new world, though not without hesitation. After years of loss and guilt, he struggled to believe in the possibility of peace. Yet every interaction with the Vorthari reminded him of their shared humanity, or perhaps shared being. When Sira approached him one evening, offering thanks for his bravery during the raid on the flagship, Malik felt something he hadn't in a long time. Acceptance. "You saved us," Sarah said softly, her golden eyes sincere. "Not just my people, but yours too. Thank you." Malik shook his head, uncomfortable with praise. "I didn't do it alone. None of us did." "No," Sarah agreed, smiling faintly. "But you stood when others might have run. That matters." Her words stayed with him, planting seeds of hope where doubt had once rooted itself. Alina, meanwhile, dedicated herself to studying the artifact further. With Lyran's permission, she brought it to a secure lab in Geneva, collaborating with both human scientists and Vorthari scholars eager to uncover its secrets. The artifact revealed more than just memories. It held knowledge of ancient technologies, sustainable energy sources, and methods of healing ecosystems ravaged by centuries of neglect. "This changes everything," Alina murmured one night, staring at the glowing object. "If we work together, we can rebuild not just Earth, but our relationship with the stars." General Hayes, standing nearby, crossed his arms thoughtfully. "You think we're ready for that? Trust doesn't come easily to either side." "It never does," Alina replied, turning to face him. "But if we don't try, then what's the point of surviving?" Her determination inspired action. Plans were drawn up for joint expeditions into space, using restored Vorthari ships and newly developed human technology. Together, they would explore distant worlds, seeking allies and answers while leaving conquest behind. Kale remained aboard the flagship, confined to quarters as he grappled with his failure. Though he refused visitors, Lyran visited him daily, speaking gently through the locked door. "You still have a place among us," she told him one evening, "but only if you choose to embrace it." For now, Kale remained silent, his pride warring with shame. But Lyran believed even broken wings could learn to fly again. As dawn broke over Earth, casting golden light across fields and oceans, two figures stood side by side on a hilltop. One was human, the other Vorthari. They gazed upward, toward the endless expanse of stars. "What happens next?" Malik asked quietly. "Whatever we make of it," Lyran answered, her voice steady. And for the first time in centuries, Both species dared to dream of a future brighter than the past, a future built not on fear, but on hope.